Very good for men, wives, children, 13, even 9 and up. And it's a very fun book with dinosaurs and monsters, and it's also got the heart of family life and family coming together.
Wonderful. Is there a moral to the story or something positive that people can take away from it?
There is a little bit. It does show that family comes first, but it is a surprise ending. You might think you know how it ends, but you do not. Nobody's been able to guess.
Wonderful. And have you always been writing fiction books?
Yes, ever since I was walking and talking.
Wonderful. Where did this inspiration come from? Was the man tired of his home, or what happened? What was the inspiration behind how you put this book together?
The inspiration was just a lot of reading Narnia, Lord of the Rings, and I just love the collaboration of real life and fantasy. I love the two coming together in a climactic, epic, just story, and that's the inspiration right there.
Wonderful. Now, is this your first book that you've written?
This is my first book that I've written, yes.
Wonderful. Well, we want to wish you the best of luck and everything on all your books that you have in the future that are to come, and also for this one.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you so much, Andrew. I'm standing here with the lady who's worked so hard to put so much of this together. Tell us a little bit about your experience and your name.
Oh, sure. Well, I'm Connie Crow, and I'm the manager of the Kentucky Book Fair. This is our 32nd annual Kentucky Book Fair, and we have just a plethora of just great authors visiting with us. We have Sue Grafton, Rick Pitino will be here later, Coach Joby Hall, Wendell Berry, George L. Lyon, Bobby Ann Mason. It's just a celebration of all things Kentucky in the literature field.
Wonderful. And how did you get all these great people to come here?
Well, I have to, attribute a lot of this to Carl West and our wonderful committee, because Mr. West started this 32 years ago, and they already had the groundwork laid. We're just kind of building upon success.
Wonderful. And what do you hope that people will take away from this experience?
Oh, that Kentucky is a literary state. There's a lot of misperceptions out there about us, and that we actually do celebrate things literary, and we have a rich body of authors. There's just so much to offer, and we hope that everyone could find something that they like with all the genres that we offer.
Mm-hmm. And how long does it take to actually bring all this together? How long are you working? I'm sure your hours are long bringing all this around into fruition.
Well, it's one of those part-time, full-time jobs. It's a labor of love. We plan all year. And we'll probably start in January, planning again for our 33rd annual book fair.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for all you do. We really appreciate having you on camera and for putting this wonderful event together.
Thank you very much. You have a good day.
You too. I'm standing here with photographer Gene Birch, who created the photographic journey. Tell us a little bit about your experience capturing these pictures.
Well, a lot of these photos in this book are from photography workshops that I've taken over the years, where you go out for a week at a time, get up before sunrise, stay out after sunset, and work. But I get to see a lot of nice places at the right light, which makes it really nice for photography, and it's a lot of fun.
Wonderful. Tell us about some of the places that you journeyed to find pictures.
Well, a lot of the national parks. Some of my favorites are Bryce Canyon and Yosemite naturally, and Yellowstone's very nice. I love out in Utah. Utah has 7 or 8 national parks, and it's a wonderful place to go photograph. So just went out there with my partner Russ Hatter down the way last spring, and almost broke a few bones trying to get into some slot canyons, but it was a lot of fun.
Wonderful. And how long have you been taking pictures?
Ever since I was in the service during the Vietnam War. Didn't have to go to Vietnam, but I got to get a camera in a dark room and started developing and all that, so I've had an interest for a long time, 40, 50 years probably.
Wonderful. And can you tell us a little bit about your other projects that you have going on?
Well, I probably will leave this to my cohorts here, but we have a book, 2 books actually. We're doing a booklet that Nikki Hughes is going to do on the skirmish on Fort Hill in 1864, where the Confederates, John Hunt Morgan, tried to come in and take Frankfort over. And then next book fair, we hope to have a book out by Jim Pritchard on Frankfort and the Civil War, like what it was like to live in Frankfort during the Civil War and all the problems on both sides that happened. So they'll probably be able to say more about that when you get to them.
Thank you. Wonderful. It was wonderful talking to you.
Thank you.
Well, hello, Mr. Hughes.
Yes, ma'am.
Tell us a little bit about the books that you have together here.
Well, it's now 10 years ago that we decided to find out if we could do a pictorial history of Frankfort. And we just put out the word, if you've got pictures, bring them in, we'll scan them, and we'll see what happens. And we were just overwhelmed. We had enough to do the first edition of Historical Images, and then another edition of it, and then the Frankfort Then and Now. And then we did so well with that, we started publishing other books having to do with the history of Frankfort. So we've been at it for a decade now. It's worked out pretty well.
Wonderful. And how far back does the history go inside this book?
It's all photographs, so we can't go any farther than the 1840s. What's the earliest ones are the 60s, late 50s, 1860s. Yeah.
Wonderful. And how hard was it collecting these photos?
Easy as pie. The people in the community were unbelievably generous. We put out the word we were interested. We were just overwhelmed with stuff coming in.
Wonderful. And is this your first collection of books that you put together?
For me, yeah, but you know, we've been here. How long have we been coming to this now? Quite a while. So, yeah, about 10 years, yeah.
Wonderful. Well, I wish you all the best in all you do.
I'm Russ Hatter with
Yes.
the Capital City Museum. Don Coffey wrote this book about Paul Sawyer, our local artist in residence. And we're doing a play next September, an outdoor theater drama in the Ward Oates Amphitheater on the Kentucky River. And we want everybody to come. And I hope David is getting the little blurb that I have here in front of the book so that the folks on television will get that little extra reminder that Cable 10 does so well for all of us. We appreciate the work you all do.
Well, I don't know about you all, but I'm definitely a fan of barbecue. I'm standing here with the author of Kentucky Barbecue, Wes Berry. Tell us a little bit about your book.
I've eaten at 173 barbecue restaurants in Kentucky. It took me about 4 years to do it. And the Kentucky Barbecue book features places that I consider to be at least good. So in the book, I review 115 out of the 173 that I've eaten at. There are over 30 recipes in the book. And really, it's a book about stories of the people who do the work, plus my impressions of the wonderful smoky treats that I eat in these places.
Wonderful. How far did you travel?
Oh, God, I've been all over the state. I've been all the way from Appalachia to the Mississippi River up to near Covington, Kentucky, and everywhere down to the Tennessee border.
And which one would you think was your favorite?
I don't have a favorite barbecue place. I have favorite barbecue towns, including Hopkinsville, Mayfield, Graves County area, Owensboro, Paducah. Louisville is a really good barbecue town, surprisingly. In Frankfort, Stax's is in the book.
Wonderful. And how did you come up with the inspiration to do this? I mean, were you just sitting down like, well, I guess I'll travel to see, how barbecue tastes everywhere? What was your inspiration?
Look, I'm a food freak. I think about it every day. What am I saying? Each passing hour, I'm obsessed about food. And I was also upset that Kentucky has been neglected when it comes to national barbecue fame. People talk about North Carolina, Texas, Kansas City, Memphis. They don't say anything about Kentucky, but we got some of the best barbecue that you can find anywhere. I know because I've eaten it all over the place, and we don't sauce the dickens out of it like some people do. Kansas City, for instance.
Oh, wow. With dry rubs, right? You're a dry rub kind of man?
I love Memphis dry rub ribs, and you can get good dry rub ribs here in the state. We do it all in Kentucky. That's one of the things that makes our barbecue great. If you get bored of one style, go a county over. They'll be doing it a different way.
Sounds good. I'm also standing here with this gentleman. Please give us your name.
Yeah, my name is Michael Crisp. I'm the author of the Kentucky Bucket List.
All right, and tell us a little bit about your book.
Well, I put together a list of the 100 must-have experiences that everybody in Kentucky should have. And things like going to the Derby and going to the Corvette Museum and even drinking some moonshine.
Wonderful. And how did you come up with the idea for this book?
A friend of mine in Florida came out with a book called the Key West Bucket List, and he kind of talked me into doing a bucket list book for Kentucky.
Wonderful. And how long did it take you to accomplish all the things inside the book? Have you done them all?
I've done almost all of them. There's still a few left on the bucket list, but I had already done quite a few of them, and then when the book came out, a lot of the places featured in the book called me and said, well, you've got to come out here. We need you to do this. We want to do some publicity things with you guys coming out to do that. So I've had the opportunity in the last year to do some fun stuff.
Wonderful. What's one of your favorite things that you've done?
I'd say one of my favorite things, I'm not really into ghosts, but one of the things profiled, there is a nightclub in northern Kentucky. It's basically a country bar called Bobby Mackey's Music World. And it's rumored to be haunted because many years ago in northern Kentucky at this bar, it was a speakeasy, it was mob influenced, and there was a lot of accidents that would happen to people that might be behind on payments or have a gambling problem. And so we went up there and they gave us a personal tour of the whole place, a personal ghost tour. So
Well, did you see any ghosts?
No, but it was a cold night and I was kind of scared. Yeah, I didn't see any, but if they invite me back, would you come with me to help?
You know, I might pass. Halloween's over, so I'm done with the goblins and the ghouls.
I can't blame you.
Well, thank you so much for agreeing to be on camera, and thank you also, Mr. Berry. Appreciate it. I'm standing here with Sue Grafton, New York Times #1 best-selling author. This is an honor. Tell us a little bit about your new book.
Well, the new book is W is for Wasted. The books are set in California. I write about a female private investigator named Kinsey Milhone, who is 38 years old. She cuts her hair with a pair of nail scissors. She owns one dress, and she kicks serious Fanny.
All right, sounds good and exciting. What was your inspiration behind the book?
Well, my father wrote mystery fiction. He was a municipal bond attorney in Louisville, and so he wrote mystery fiction in his spare time, and I took it up myself.
Wonderful. And now, is this your favorite book that you've written?
So far. I have 3 to go, X, Y, and Z, and then I'm going to take a nap.
Well, you've been in it for quite some time.
31 years.
Do you ever find yourself inside the book in any way?
Yes, actually, Kinsey Milhone is a sort of projection of my own personality, because I did so much research writing the first one. I thought, I'm going to play the part myself, so that helps me. Yeah, so they're first-person narrative.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, best wishes to you and all that you do. Thank you so much for letting me get an interview.
Of course. Take care.
And you have such a long line here. They're all waiting in line to meet you, right?
That should be fun.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
I'm standing here with the author of Oh Boy, You're Having a Girl. Brian Clem, tell us a little bit about how you got this book started.
Sure. I got the book started about 7 years ago. We became pregnant with our first daughter, and I started writing a blog about becoming a parent called thelifeofdad.com. And, at first it just had my mom and, a couple aunts reading it, and slowly my readership just started growing and growing. And then I had a second daughter and a third daughter, and by that time I was, thinking about writing a book, and everything worked out. I wrote this book for dads who are going to have daughters or already have daughters, so hopefully they can relate to it and have a good laugh. It's supposed to be pretty funny, so hopefully they find it funny.
Wonderful. Are your own personal experiences inside of it?
Oh yeah, I have a lot of personal experiences that hopefully relate to other people. I have talks about, tea parties, how to handle a tea party. More importantly, my wife's under no circumstances list when you take your daughter when she's potty training, you take her to public restrooms, how you deal with that fiasco, and other things, questions you never thought you'd be asked. And, such as, Dad, why do you stand to pee, kind of stuff. And those are the kinds of things that I cover in there through my own experiences that I've had, and hopefully other dads can relate.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Is this your first book that you've put together?
Yes, it is my first book, and it's been a wonderful experience. I've loved every minute of it. So it's been wonderful. The subject matter is great because I love hanging out with my daughters.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for being on camera, Brian, and best of wishes to you and all you do.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
I'm standing here with the author of Marriage Matters. Please tell us your name.
Hi, I'm Cynthia Ellingson.
Wonderful. And tell us a little bit about your book that you have out.
Absolutely. This is Marriage Matters. It's about a mother, a daughter, and a grandmother, and they all get engaged at the same time, and they decide to share a wedding, which is, of course, a disaster. If you can imagine sharing a wedding with your mother, with your grandmother, it's a lot of fun. It was voted by Romantic Times as a humor pick must read.
Wonderful. Okay, what was your inspiration behind the book?
It was actually, it was this first one that I wrote, the whole package. I noticed a lot of people were buying it for their best friend friends from high school and college because it's a book about friendship. And I started thinking, how wonderful would it be to have a book where people would buy it for their mother and for their grandmother and, you know, sort of share it in the family. And so that's why I decided to do something with, you know, 3 generations.
Wonderful. Now tell us a little bit about your first book, The Whole Package.
The Whole Package is very, very naughty. It's about 3 friends. They lose everything. One loses her fortune, one loses her husband, and so they decide to go ahead and open a scandalous business, a restaurant staffed by scantily clad men, and they call it The Whole Package, and of course it goes horribly wrong, and they have to figure out what it is that women really want to rebuild it, so they kind of model the restaurant after that.
Wonderful. What led you to write this book?
You know, I honestly, I thought that, you know, there's a certain other restaurant that exists in this world, and there is not an option for women, and so I thought, how funny would it be if there was an option for women? But then once I started actually writing it, I thought, no, we don't want that. That's not what women want. And so that's what inspired me for it.
How long did it take you to put it all together?
Oh, gosh. You know, the one that, the Marriage Matters, it took me about a year to write that one. It took me about a year to write The Whole Package. So I live in Lexington and, excuse me, I live in Lexington and I'm a big fan of the Carnegie Center and I spend a lot of time there as well. It's the Writing and Literacy Center. And so they've been great in terms of support and all that. The whole community, the whole Kentucky community has been fantastic.
Wonderful. And are these your first 2 books?
These are my first 2 books, yep, from Berkeley, which is an imprint of Penguin Random House.
Wonderful. And have you always written fiction books?
Yes, ever since the 3rd grade. I used to love to sort of write in secret, and then I was actually living out in Los Angeles, and my roommate, she knew that, you know, I was in my room kind of secretly writing books, and she connived me into writing a screenplay with her. And so, you know, kind of that little push is what got me started and made me think, okay, you know, maybe this is something that I could do, and I love it. I absolutely love it.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, best wishes to you and all you do. You look fabulous, by the way.
Around the stage.
I'll come back and show you what it looks like. Okay. We're going to bring it down a little bit. But yeah, no, this is 180. I'm standing here with Terry Cummins and also Ann Caudle. And many of you all know her husband. It's her the 50th anniversary of their book, Night Comes to the Cumberlands. Wonderful. Tell us about that.
Well, that was 50 years ago, but that book has had a deep influence on bringing the attention of the nation to the Appalachian region. And it's still in print, still read, still referred to constantly. And there's no doubt that it did bring much help and change to the Appalachian region. Not enough. The problems are still there, but it did bring help in many ways. And of course, Harry wrote 10 books, all of them about the Appalachian region. But this latest book, my friend Terry Cummins has written simply about my recollection of stories that coming from my life and my life with Harry as an author. I was his secretary and research assistant, as well as chief cook and bottle washer, and we had 3 children, and we were very much partners in all we did. But Terry has written a number of wonderful books since he retired.
This is the most wonderful book I've ever written.
Tell us a little bit about the book. I'm sorry.
Well, it's about, the title is The Caudles of the Cumberlands, Anne's story of her life with Harry. She lived 44 years in Appalachia and Whitesburg with Harry's wife and helped him write all the books, all the 10 books, and she's had an incredible life and still going very strong, and we're here. And it's a story of her life, but a lot about Harry and a great deal about Appalachia and the plight of the Appalachians. She lived 44 years in Appalachia, and so that's what the book is about. It's about both of them, but primarily she tells the story, many intriguing stories of Appalachia and the people who visited them when his book came out. It received worldwide, Night Comes to the Cumberlands received worldwide attention. There's people from all over the world that came there, and many of them stayed with the Caudles in their home, and so the stories abound about her life and Harry's life and Appalachia.
Wonderful. How long have you been writing, Mr. Cummins?
I've started writing after I retired. I published my first book at age 69. This is my 5th book. My first book was Feed My Sheep, about a memoir about my growing up in the hills of Kentucky. And so I'm still writing, and I started my 6th book, and after retiring, so I'm not retired. I'm very active, and it's a pleasure. It's an honor and a pleasure to have been able to write this book. That's all I can say. It's.
I think you should tell them about this book.
Well, yes, this is my first book I wrote, but retirement is a blast. When I retired, I knew I wanted to write, but I also started running marathons and climbing. I got into mountain climbing and traveling around the world and writing. I write an article a week for 2 newspapers and my 5th book, and all of that since age 69. So, you know, Ann and I, we don't intend to stop living.
Well,
she's somewhat older than I am.
10 years.
10 years. She'll be 90 and I'll be 80.
Wonderful.
But, we plan to be back here for at least 10 more years.
All right, well, it sounds good. I want to wish you all the best in all you do. Thank you all for taking the time to allow me to interview you all and everything that you've got going on.
Thank you.
I'm sure you'll have many great books, especially seeing that you started at age 69. There will be many more to come. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yes, I'm here with the Kentucky Historical Society. Kate Sawada, tell us a little bit about the Kentucky Mobile.
This is the History Mobile with the Kentucky Historical Society. So it's one way we get out across the state to visit people who can't make it to Frankfort. Inside we have an exhibit about choices that people make. We want people to think about history as choices we make as individuals and how it impacts our future. So we have 8 Kentuckians based on and their choices they made about slavery during the Civil War. So there's a lot of stuff to touch, a lot of interactive things. People can put themselves in these people's shoes, think about what they would have done if they would have been in the situation, and then see what this person actually ended up doing.
Wonderful. And how long has the History Mobile been in existence?
It's been in existence since the 70s. This exhibit was debuted earlier this spring, so it's pretty new. It'll be around for a couple years as we travel around the state, hopefully reaching the entire state.
Wonderful. Would you like to follow us inside and give us the grand tour?
Sure.
Sounds good.
All right, so here is one of our historical figures in the History Mobile, Henry Lane Stone. He's 20 years old at the break of the Civil War, and he's an example of how families were divided. His mother and his brothers were on the side of the Union, but his father and his friends were on the side of the South. So he's torn. Which side should he be on for the Civil War? And Henry decided to fight for the Confederacy because he was 20 years old, he was looking for adventure, and he was really attracted to John Hunt Morgan right here and the adventures that you could have. Right. So here we have Justice Harlan. He's from Kentucky and he served on the Supreme Court. And this is one way we try to get people into the Civil